Welcome to another episode of Monster Territory, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. We have a very special guest here, the Tribal Chief himself, Jared Carrabis. Welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing?
It's good to be here. It's good to see your face. I feel like people are going to be very surprised to know that we've known each other for like 20 years.
You took my little intro there from me. Yes, this is 20 years in the making. For people that don't know, it's actually pretty cool, like how we first started speaking. You got to go back to the MySpace days. You created Sockspace years and years ago, and my dorky 15-year-old self who's sitting in his room on his computer going on Sockspace every day, Boston Dirt Dogs. I was checking that every morning. I reached out to you. I don't even remember how I reached out to you in the first place, but I remember wanting to contribute to Sockspace, and that's how we first started, talking. And you're probably thinking at the time, who's this freaking redhead kid just, writing me every single day? But
well, you were like, those were our skinny boy days. Like you weren't a thick boy like you are now. You were skinny back then.
It's not thick. It's more fluff. Just to get that across. But thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. No, it is pretty interesting, man. Like, we over the years, we went from the skinny days. We both started getting into, working out and whatnot. It's cool to see the growth over the last 20 years. I got to ask you, though, going back, looking back over that time, like you said, 20 years, if you could give me like a word or a couple of words to describe just going from that to where you are today, with all you've accomplished and where you're at right now, what are some words that you would say, to describe this whole thing?
Unbelievable, like truly unbelievable. I think if you went back to ask 16-year-old Jared when he started Sockspace, what do you see for yourself in the future? Whatever I would have said, it is exponentially more than whatever I could have dreamed of. Yeah. Like even if I throw out something unrealistic, I think if I was being realistic about it, I would have said, I'll work at the Herald or the Globe and I'll become the biggest Red Sox writer in the world, because blogging really was like kind of not a thing yet, and podcasting certainly wasn't a thing, and like digital media, streaming and YouTube content, like that was not a thing yet. So I would have just said, I hope to be the biggest Red Sox writer in the world. And for whatever reason, like I think I probably, because I don't really write anymore, I think I probably got to a point where I had to have been the most read Red Sox writer at around like 2018, 2017. Yeah. And then to have like the podcast kind of blow up the way that it did and ultimately have the thing that I'm most known for be something that didn't exist when I started, like that's unbelievable to me. Like, especially being a shy kid growing up and not wanting any eyeballs on me at all, but like having to depend on that for my livelihood in the end, like some catch-22 type career. Like the whole thing has just been unbelievable. Like the experiences, being in high school for 2004 and being able to get to a point in my life where like the other night, like we were watching the Royal Rumble, to be able to just drunk dial Johnny Damon, like that's cool. Like having like Jason Varitek be someone that you can just walk up to and like, his family and like shake his hand and he wants to talk baseball with you. Like that's crazy. Being like, I was back in December when like the Juan Soto stuff was going on, having to pause my workout because David Ortiz is FaceTiming me right now. Like stuff like that, like it's just everything. Like I truly don't take it for granted. I have a vast appreciation for all of it, but again, the word is unbelievable, because if you had told 16-year-old Jared like this will someday be your life, he'd be like, yeah, okay, like no way.
No, it is pretty crazy. I still remember the when you ran and became the governor of Red Sox Nation.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, man, like that's when you started, I think, really starting to see, your ascent, right? Your name started getting out there more at that time, and it's pretty cool, right? Social media over all these years, obviously the podcast, Barstool Sports. It's really cool to see your growth, and you bring up how you've built these relationships with the players. It's cool, knowing that. I think what you bring to the table, it's such a different dynamic to where I think a lot of us fans, we see, for example, a player, let's say at like a restaurant, you're like, oh my God, that's that guy. I still remember I saw Steven Strasburg at a smoothie shop, and I'm like, that's freaking Steven Strasburg. And I'm like looking at him like I couldn't believe it. But you've just built these relationships where I think what you have shown is that they're just real people at the end of the day. I think that's the coolest part of it. And again, looking back on the last 20 years, man, it's been quite the journey. We'll see what happens over the next 20 years. I'm sure that's going to be more exciting, but
I don't even hope I'm here for the next 20. If I'm like, what would that make me? 55. It's just like, I feel like my character has a shelf life where eventually it's like, man, like your grandpa, like go hang out with your family. Like the Red Sox don't matter that much. But to be honest with you, like when I'm 55, the Red Sox will still matter that much to me. It's just, I don't know that I can put it on camera. I think it'll be sad at that point.
Yeah, like I'm kind of in the same boat. What you said, about being a shy guy years ago. That's kind of how I've always been too. Doing a channel and whatnot. Like it kind of blows my mind that I'm doing this because people won't know. They think I'm probably so talkative off camera and whatnot. No. When I'm off, my head goes down, basically. I'm probably as introverted as you can be, but it's weird how the camera can kind of bring that out of you a little bit. Sure. But, it's interesting, man. But, 20 years from now, who knows what I'll be doing at that time. But over the last few months, it's been rather interesting. The Red Sox have actually had a pretty good offseason. I mean, my goodness. I mean, they're actually making moves. Alex Bregman recently, Walker Buehler, Aroldis Chapman, trading for Garrett Crochet. I got to ask one simple question, Jared. Are we back?
I feel like that's the question of the month right now. That's the question of the spring. And I would have said yes until this Rafi drama presented itself. I feel like you can't have the house on fire and be like, we're back, baby. Until that's kind of resolved, like until there's like a hug and kiss moment and Alex Cora is able to put the fire out. I don't know that I can say that we're back. I ultimately, I don't think that this is a big deal. I think it was a little bit overblown. I understand Rafi's pissed. Like that part of it is legitimate. I'm not saying he's, it's no big deal and he's actually, he's fine. I'm sure he is pissed off. But will this still be a problem, a lingering issue? Come, I don't know, late April, early May? No, I don't think so. So yeah. I'm gonna pump the brakes on saying that we're back until that issue is resolved, though.
Well, we might as well start there. It's so funny because, I mean, this is what we know, man. Like over all the years, I know we keep saying that word years, but over all this time, this is what being a Red Sox fan is like. You have the highest of highs. You're feeling great. You go to bed. You're snuggling your Red Sox teddy bear, wearing your hat while you're sleeping, and then the next morning you get some kind of a bombshell thing. This is how it's been over the years, right? I got to ask your thoughts. Looking back over the last week or so, you had the highest of highs with the Bregman signing because of how down the last several years have been now, going back to the Mookie trade to the Dodgers. Would you say, looking back on this last week, the whole Bregman thing, was that some of the happiest times you've seen just because of the circumstances?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, when the David Price thing happened, that was really cool too, because that was kind of like, I've had a few different breakout moments. Obviously, like you mentioned, like the Red Sox Nation president thing and the governor thing. That was probably like my first original breakout moment. But it was pre-Twitter and all that. So it was hard to you weren't like going viral or anything. Like, it's like, yeah, people were seeing it, but like I wasn't interacting or couldn't see that people were even noticed that. The David Price thing, I was kind of just trolling him on Twitter in 2014.
Yeah.
It was like after the 13 championship, and then he blocked me. But then like, I think I just continued to troll him after he blocked me, and then he unblocked me and followed me once he realized like it was all tongue in cheek. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So then we kind of became friends, and then he signed with the Red Sox, and we were like messaging as he was making his decision. And then he gave me the shout out at the press conference when he signed with Boston. That was like peak. Oh my God. Like, what is my life right now?
Yeah.
The Bregman signing, I mean, that was also very cool because, you know, like we met each other, like same deal. Like we became friends because I was trolling him in 2018 with the Astros, and then we met in 2019, became friends, and yeah, we were like staying in touch the whole off season, and I was kind of getting like updates, and I was like, yeah, I don't think this is gonna happen. Like based on, you know, what like the vibes are and what the other offers are, what the Red Sox offer is, like I just don't think that it's adding up here. So like I just always expect the worst in any situation or any scenario. So when he, you know, Coley's going crazy, like we're recording section 10 and Coley's like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And like, he wasn't saying what it was. And then I have a FaceTime from Bregman and I answer the phone and he's not smiling. So I'm like, oh no, did you sign with the Yankees? And then he pans down to show his son Knox wearing a Red Sox hat. And even still, like, I didn't believe it. I was like, is this a prank? Are you joking? Like, this is a sick joke. Why would you do this to my emotions? So it's not the same thing as what happened with Price or anything, but it's very cool. Like it's almost as cool. It's just not, it's not him giving me a shout out at the press conference, but it's him like calling me the second that the world found out that he's coming to the Red Sox. Like that was very cool. So yeah, I mean, I think if one day, if I ever write a second book, there will be stories in there where you're just like, that didn't happen. Like every time, like when I did Barstool Radio, I would tell stories all the time. People are like, why are you making stuff up? I'm like, bro, like stuff happens in my life where you wouldn't believe it. I understand that, but like it happened. I'm just glad it was caught on camera.
Yeah. Well, I think one moment that speaks perfectly to that, where you couldn't believe it actually happened. Tyler Milliken is he's such a great guy, and he's so funny, and he doesn't mean to be. I think at times it's like you pull him out of a sitcom. Like
that's the best kind of funny.
It's hilarious. Like when he said my phone's dead, I lost. I couldn't believe it. Like I was like, this guy's not real. Like it's because the funny thing is I actually connected with that because when that signing happened, when it was announced, I was just like cleaning up in the kitchen. I just got done making some dinner and I was listening to a podcast, but I heard my phone vibrate. You know, at the time I'm still on alert a little bit. I'm checking everything and I see a DM from a friend of mine. And it was on the lock screen, so I didn't see what else he had put, but I saw the first part said OMG in capital letters. And I'm like, what? And then right there, my phone died. And I'm like, oh my God, my phone died. But I at least had like something. So I ran over, to my iPad and I was like, oh my God, I went live. That's what I always do on my channel. When there's a big signing, I go live. Tyler, man, I gotta ask, like, what has it been like, working, with Tyler and Steve and Coley over all these years, all this time? You guys are just having a blast on the podcast.
Yeah, Tyler. It's almost like I did get lucky with Tyler because I had seen him. Basically, what happened was I left Barstool, and Coley was still there. And Steve had left prior to me leaving. So he was with like Odyssey doing his own show. Then Coley left and went to Underdog. And then Dave basically put an embargo on me and said like, Coley, you can't like rejoin Jared. Like you can't like Coley couldn't go to DraftKings with me, or else he would be in breach of his contract and they would sue him. So it was like, all right, now I need to do a Red Sox show and I can't have Steve or Coley. So I listened to Sports Hub, and I knew Tyler was a Red Sox guy. I listened / watched him on a Red Sox podcast where he was a guest, and I just knew I needed a 162 guy.
Yeah.
So because I couldn't give the audience Coley and Steve, I went back and I asked Pete. I was like, hey man, like I know that you're, knee deep in hockey and that's your world now, but people would go crazy if you came back. And then I asked Pat Light. He was kind of doing stuff at the end of 2021. So I was like, all right, like we have our comedic side of Section 10. We can't call it Section 10, but like we still have the comedic side of it. And I need my guy that. Then I realized like, like they don't watch all the games. Like they don't watch every game. Mm-hmm. So then that's where I went looking for that guy, and that was Tyler. Yeah. So found him, brought him in, and I think in the beginning he was probably nervous and just wanted to like impress with his baseball knowledge and how dedicated he is. So it took a little while for the real Tyler to come out, but once we got Section 10 back together, I warned Steve. I was like, this man, he's unhinged. Like, I don't know if you know what you're getting yourself into. Like, he's a 162 guy. He watches all the games. He's very passionate, very knowledgeable, but like, he's going to say some things and you're going to be like, what did you just say? And that happens probably once an episode with him. Like, it is a sitcom. So it's been cool because I think at first there was probably a little bit of, I don't want to call it insecurity, but like Steve having to hold his ground, like, I hold this spot, like this is my spot on the show. And there was maybe a little bit of tension at first, but it's almost like Steve was like the dog that you had for 7 years and then you got a puppy. Yeah. And it's like the puppy just wants to be loved. Like the puppy's not thinking about competing for attention or a spot. The puppy's just like, someone love me, someone pet me. And that's Tyler. So I think over time, Steve realized like, this guy's not coming for my spot. Like this guy, he just wants to, entertain the fans, be knowledgeable and have a good time. And he knows his role and Steve has his role. So it's just, I don't know. I think it's a great dynamic. And then Coley's Coley. He's the best.
It really is that. And honestly, I feel like, if you think back to some of the best shows, whether that's, TV, broadcast, whatever, it's when you have several different characters where they bring something different to the table and you can just kind of connect with each of those characters in a certain way. I think that's what's really cool about Section 10 is you guys can obviously, you can talk about the serious stuff, but you could also have some fun at the same time. And that's why, it's one of my favorite shows. I'm not trying to be, that guy here, but it is a great show. It's good.
I appreciate that. And we like each other. That's the thing. Like there are shows where it's a marriage. It's like, this guy is really good at what he does. This guy is really good at what he does. So it works together on the show. But like we hang out, I mean, Tyler doesn't go outside, but Steve comes over for the wrestling pay-per-views. Coley's literally my best friend. Like his newborn son is my godson. So like we're all friends in real life and we also do the show.
Well, I can relate with Tyler there too. I don't go outside either. I'm not allowed out in the sun. We're too pale.
That's true. Yeah. So. That's health hazard for you.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I got to ask though. Getting back to Bregman, if we were to get back to some of the baseball stuff here, when it comes to the Bregman signing, everyone talks about all the boxes that he checks off: the right-handed bat, the perfect fit at Fenway Park, 1,200 plus OPS, what he brings to the clubhouse. From a veteran point of view, he used the word winning a lot in his introductory press conference. Lots of boxes being checked. Would you have since this signing, do you think there's anything else that he brings to the table that maybe we're not even thinking about, considering your relationship with Bregman over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things, just talking to other media members floating around the batting cage or whatever, Um, it feels to me like this group is like they may get along at the field and stuff like that, but it's not how it used to be where guys would go out for a beer after the game or like they would socialize away from the ballpark. It's a lot of just, all right, like, you know, we hang out while we're here, but then we all go home and play Xbox by ourselves after. I think that he'll really help with, you know, the bonding aspect of this group because I mean, that was a tight core in Houston that he was a part of. And if he comes here and it's just kind of like, yeah, like, you know, we play together, but like, that's about it. I think that'll change. And then just hearing some of the guys that are like the young hitters on the team that are quite simply just saying like, I wish I had someone to talk hitting with, you know, and like, you would think Rafi would be that guy. He's not that guy. Like he just, you know, there's guys that are super talented that they just go about their work and they go about their business and they keep to themselves and that's their prerogative. But then when you have, you know, your younger hitter, like Jarren Duran is outside of Rafael Devers, the best hitter on the team. And he's looking around being like, where is there someone that's better than me or older than me that I can talk to? Because now you've got the Campbells and the Myers and the
Anthony
and the Roman Anthony's of the world where they're going to be looking at Duran. And Duran's like, well, I need my guy to talk to about hitting, you know? So I think that's like a huge thing that Bregman will bring to the table too.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point there, you know, with the big three guys coming up from the minors, right? You know, this is even a younger generation. You know, it sounds weird for me to say. I'm not like, you know, Gandalf the Grey over here, but, you know, this is like that next wave, you know, what is it? What do you call that group that age now? Was it Gen X? Is it Gen Z? What is it?
As Gen X, right?
Gen X. Gosh, like what is happening here?
Is it? But, I can't keep track of it.
I don't know, man. But then you talk, you know, you're talking about like the video games and whatnot, you know, guys wanting to go out and, you know, try all these new restaurants and take pictures. You know, it's like, it's a completely different aspect now. And I think it's a good point that you bring up. I think Bregman, because he still like what seems cool about Bregman to me is he still has a good amount of youth to him where, you know, even if, you know, you're 20 years old, he seems like a guy that you could just like have a good time with, you know. I feel like he can connect with a bunch of people. So
yeah, he's a great guy, and you know he's obviously. I think like when Alex Cora got hired as the manager, it's like all right, we can bridge the gap between the Latin players, the white players, and I think Bregman, because you know he was playing in Houston, it's like he's playing around like Jose Altuve, like he can bridge the gap too as a white kid. Like he can bridge that gap too, because there are like, if you go into clubhouses across the league, they can be very cliquey. And I think that the Latin players can kind of look at Bregman and be like, you know what, he's kind of one of us, you know, like he's cool with us. Yeah. So yeah, I think that it's almost like he bridges cultural gaps as well.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point there with Cora. I mean, Cora, if you need an example of a guy that can have a conversation, not just talk, but like actually sit down and have a conversation with you, he is the guy. And how do I know that? Because he talked to freaking me. Like that is like, of all the people he could have a conversation with, he did it with me. So like, if he could do that, I mean, he could talk with anyone out there. That's why, you know, Cora is so valuable. And I do think, well, I don't know. I'll ask you, I mean, do you think that was a big part in Bregman coming to Boston? Was that connection there?
It didn't hurt, you know. I think having that, I think obviously, A, it's the money. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's the money. B, I think he was looking at the ballpark factors. Like, he was not like, money aside. Like, yes, like money is the number one reason why he chose his destination, but he wants to be a Hall of Famer. You know, like this is someone that wasn't going to be like, all right, I won 2 rings in Houston, great run with the Astros in the playoffs every year of my career up to this point. Now it's time for me to go the Pablo Sandoval route and just like get the bag and fall off. Like, who cares what happens to my career now once I get the bag and I have nothing left to prove. That's pretty much what Sandoval said when he got here. He said, I have nothing left to prove, when he showed up fat in 2016 because he had won his 3 rings and he had his World Series MVP and he got his bag. So like, Bregman is not that guy. Bregman he wants to continue to win. So I don't know if you saw, what was it? Jen McCaffrey had the piece where Bregman and his wife Reagan had a 16-page document of questions for the Red Sox, which I need to know more about that packet. I want to know what else was in there. But he was obviously very invested in learning about the future of the Red Sox organization. Yeah. Bregman has the great relationship with Alex Cora, but he also has a great relationship with AJ Hinch, So I think Detroit having more years on the table and more total dollars on the table, like that can't be slept on. I know that AC and Breggy got a great relationship, but there were several factors, I believe, why he chose Boston.
Yeah, that's got to be a mission of yours this year to go get that. Go get those questions. We'll
find out tomorrow night.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm excited for that. I had to really control myself when you just brought up the Pablo Sandoval thing. One of my favorite. I always keep a bunch of GIFs and reactionary pictures like saved on my phone, to react to things on Twitter. It's just something I like to do. But one of those pictures is the picture of the Pablo Sandoval article that you had. Look at this fat effing piece of bleep. It's a family friendly show. I will not curse on the show. It's one of my favorites of all time. It surprisingly goes with a whole bunch of different things. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, I was drunk on the 4th of July in 2020 when I wrote that blog, but I stand by it.
The best things happen during those times. So worked out perfectly. I wonder what that guy's up to these days. What is he playing in? What was it again? Like the Pakistan? What was going on?
Someone tagged me in a video of his like yesterday, and I'm just like, I give up. Like I feel like the war that I've waged on Pablo Sandoval cannot go a decade. Like it's been 10 years. I've moved on from that chapter, especially because he's never engaged. Like if he ever fought back, then it would reignite it for me. But until he throws a counterpunch, I think I've the body's cold. We're done.
I'll give respect there where he stayed away from me. So I'll give him a look.
I would too, because he has no legs to stand on. Like he has no ammo in the conversation.
He just got punched in the face a million times and he took it like a champ. So I'll give him a champ.
Hey, real nutrition has the power to make a real difference in people's lives. So let me talk about Orgain for a moment, please. The new 30-gram complete protein shakes really get you set up for pre or post-workout crats. And also it tastes so damn good.
Tastes too good. It tastes too good. I want to have a second one because there's tons of protein shakes out there that taste terrible. This makes me feel like I'm getting a reward for my workout.
Satisfy those cravings without any added sugar. All 9 essential amino acids, part of your ultra filtered protein shake. It's called Orgain. There are no quick fixes when it comes to your health. If you want more protein, give Orgain 30-gram protein shakes a try. Head to Orgain.com/FOUL30. Use code FOUL30 for 30% off your order. That's the best offer that you're going to find. It's from the FT fam. You got to use the code FOUL30 for 30% off. Give us a little shake on the way out, Kratz, so they know. Just a quick shake. Nice.
I got to ask, we're talking about all the good stuff with Bregman here. Lots of good vibes going on with that. But getting back to Rafi, unfortunately, not a great day yesterday. But like I've said, over the years now, we've had many of these times where you have 2004 winning a World Series, and then you had Theo Epstein in a gorilla suit. It's kind of just how it goes here in Red Sox land. But, thinking back to the Rafi press conference, it also gave me vibes. This is also something we connect. I think is a pretty underrated connection that me and you have is the wrestling factor where Rafi at the press conference, I got to ask you, is this a good analogy? I look at the Rafi press conference, him saying no, and I think of Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, WrestleMania 26, Shawn Michaels slaps Undertaker in the face, then he gets tombstoned. Is that what's going on here with Rafi? He's being defiant on the way out. And do you see that here?
I could see that. Yeah. Because I think at the end of the day, and I said this, I love Davison. He was the interpreter for this. He didn't fully interpret one of the questions.
Yes.
Like when Chris Cotillo said, isn't it the team's decision? And Devers said, it's my decision. And Davison did not translate that part of it. I think probably to do Rafi a solid so that there wasn't a firestorm. But it's like, well, I mean, there's obviously Spanish-speaking Red Sox fans that are going to know exactly what he said. And I think like I don't know the Spanish terminology for it, but it was also like a word that sounded like an English-speaking person could hear exactly what he said without knowing Spanish. So I think Coley made the point yesterday that if he had just given up third base, you would call him lazy. And the fact that he's going down fighting is like, it should at least be to some degree admirable that he's saying like, I'm not giving it up. Like I'm not moving off my position. Like I may not be the best third baseman, but I take pride in the work that, I don't know. So I respect it. Ultimately, I think he knows it's not his decision. You can say you think it's your decision, but it's not. Yeah. So, yeah, I just hope that there's a peaceful resolution and it's Rafi coming to his senses and not him just being disgruntled forever now over this.
Yeah, I respect that part of it too. I also want to make it clear when I said on the way out, I don't mean like a trade or anything. I just mean of the position. Sorry if I made that a little confusing there. But no, I could think in a way it should resonate with the people of Boston, right? We fight hard for what we love. Like we have passion, and I'm glad Rafi is showing that, right? Because if you just said, okay. Well, then you're going to look at it from the other side where like, oh, this guy doesn't care, So to me, I'm glad that he is taking this approach. I just hope in the end they find a middle ground here. I actually wonder kind of, two people. I'm always thinking about how other people are, thinking about things. I actually wonder what Bregman and even someone like Christian Campbell are thinking right now. What do you think's going through their heads right now?
I mean, Bregman's probably thinking to himself, I'm making $40 million no matter what happens. I'm starting somewhere no matter what happens. Campbell is probably the guy that's like, am I making the team out of camp or not? And if I don't make the team out of camp, then how are we finding a spot for me? Obviously injuries happen, but I would have more concerns if I'm Campbell. But at the same time, I probably don't have a ton of concern because the Red Sox not committing to Bregman at second base or third base, like that means that's Campbell. That has nothing to do with Devers. That has nothing to do with Bregman. That has everything to do with Campbell. Because if Bregman is your third baseman, it's not Devers sliding over to second base. Yeah. It's Campbell making the team out of camp. So he's the X factor in the situation, but he's a humble kid. Even if you told him, I'm sure he'd be stoked if you told him he's making the team on opening day. But even if you told him like, hey, just chill down here for a month, it wouldn't crush his confidence. It wouldn't ruin his ego. Like I don't know if you've had the chance to talk to him yet, but he's got all the confidence in the world in himself and his ability, but all while being super humble at the same time. So
yeah, and that's what I'm getting a lot from talking with some of these guys. I've spoken with Mikey Romero, David Sandlin. The way they all come off, they're all extremely talented in what they do. But they're all just very, even keeled, very humble, and just very approachable. Like I think the Red Sox, they've done a great job with building not just talent but good character within the farm system, and I'm excited to see how that goes. I think of a funny thing in my head, with Christian Campbell. It kind of makes me think like, it's obviously this whole thing is not his fault, obviously, but he's creating it because he's so freaking good. And, he's just got to be that guy right now, of course. But anyway.
I can't wait to see him come up.
No, I think, he kind of reminds me, I've talked with Jeff of Baseball America not too long ago, and I asked him a simple question. Does Christian Campbell remind you of Mookie Betts, but bigger? And he's like, yeah, I think I could see that. I think this is kind of like Mookie, right? He kind of came out of nowhere in the minors, right? Not like a very late pick, but kind of in the middle rounds, and a guy that just tore it up in the minor leagues. Do you kind of get the same vibes with Christian Campbell here?
Yeah, and a guy that you asked to change positions so that he could fit the roster at the big league level. Like I remember watching Paw Sox games on Nesson because I think they aired Mookie Betts' first game as a right fielder. Mm-hmm. And I mean, everyone was already high on Mookie at that point, regardless, but as a second baseman. And then, he gets moved to right field, and I'm like, I kind of want to tune into this and see, what's going on. And I believe he like threw someone out from the outfield, and I was like, all right, I've seen enough. Like, get him up here. So yeah, like I think it's very similar in that sense where 10 years later, I think Red Sox fans are even more attentive to the farm system than they were back then. There's just way more coverage of it. I think that there's more access to it, with shows like this and podcasts and the Sox prospect guys. I mean, that's been, you mentioned Boston Dirt Dogs, like Boston Dirt Dogs and Sox prospects were on my like favorites page in high school. Like they were just always around, always a valuable resource. And I think it was Tyler might have made the point about how, growing up, he thought like every team had a Sox prospects, like there was like a Rays prospects, and no, like we just have really, really good prospect coverage in Boston, and we're so lucky to have those guys. So having them as a resource and just like the media coverage and all the YouTube channels now that cover prospects, that's what makes it exciting. And I think, when we look at the Red Sox next wave that we've been talking about, I don't think that there's ever been a more well covered group of Red Sox prospects in the team's history. So we're more knowledgeable about it. So that allows us to be more excited about it.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you bring up how Sox prospects was a favorite tab of yours. What I like about it is they look pretty much exactly the same. Like the website,
looks exactly the same as it did 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's so
they
funny.
haven't updated it once.
It just makes me think when I'm on my, I don't even remember the computer I had. I think I had like a Dell or something, this big old monitor on my desk. It makes me think back to when I'm looking at that page years ago. Boston Dirt Dogs, they got to make a comeback, man. Every morning I checked their site, and it was always
that guy went off the deep end, I think. Yeah, the guy that ran it, he hated me. I remember being heartbroken because in 2007, during the Red Sox Nation president thing, like I was like you. I read Boston Dirt Dogs. I would update it like 500 times a day. I would watch. I would go on there multiple times a day throughout the entire day. But when the president thing happened, he like wrote something making fun of me. And I was like, yeah. Dang. And like, we've just had like a complicated relationship ever since then, because I think he was, like he like talked down to me when I was a teenager, and then kind of just blew past what Boston Dirt Dogs was. But then it's a very weird so it's weird because like I have such fond positive memories, nostalgia of going on the website. Yeah. But then when you learn like the guy behind it, I'm like, yeah. Yeah, kind of ruined it for me. Yeah.
Dang it. Well, I'll think of the good times. I'll try not to think of that, but it is what it is. But, thinking back again, we keep using the word over the phrase over the years, heading into this season, right? With all the moves, minus the Raffy thing, all the good vibes as of late. What are you thinking here, heading into 2025? Have you felt, or when was the last time you felt this kind of excitement for a season?
Probably 2019, but not in a similar sense. Mm-hmm. Like 2019 was coming off a World Series title, and I really believed they were going to go back to back. I was like, it's the exact same team. Why wouldn't they at least be back in the World Series, and we see what happens when we get there? But that team was such a disappointment, and it fell apart so quick. Like they were like 3-11 when they came back to Fenway for the ring ceremony or something like that, something crazy.
Yeah.
So the wheels fell off immediately. So that was just a very short-lived excitement for that season. This one feels differently in the sense that I compared them the other day to the Atlanta Braves in 2018, where you knew that they had a bunch of young talent coming up, but they were early. Like 2018, no one expected the Braves to be as good as they were. And I think that that's what the Red Sox have the potential to be this year, depending on, when does Campbell get here? When does Anthony get here? Does Meyer factor in? Whatever. But I think the Red Sox, people are aware because of their farm system, they're going to be good again, and it's going to be soon. But does their window open sooner because of the additions that they made this past offseason? I believe so. But then even, you look at the Atlanta Braves, their window opened in 18. They didn't win their World Series until 2021. So I'm not thinking World Series or bust. Like that used to be the expectation around here. I'm not thinking World Series or bust, but I am thinking playoffs, and I am thinking that they're going to be a team that surprises people as to how good they can be.
Yeah, I kind of, there's not one season where I can think about where I compare the feeling to this. I think of a few different seasons. I think of, in a way, 2007, because you had a good amount of young talent that was going to be contributing. They made signings. You still already had some pretty decent talent on the team, but you were still a little too close to 2004 for that to be comparable here. But then I also mixed in a little bit of that 2013 vibe going into the season, because obviously 2012 was a disaster and you just didn't know really what you were going to get. But then I also think of like 2016, you're kind of going into that window. So I feel like there's a little bit of everything when it comes to feelings over the years with this team. I got to ask you, one final question. Right now, I'm going to put you on the spot. How many wins for the 2025 Red Sox?
I've fluctuated back and forth between 89 and 91 because I hate round numbers for my predictions. If I told you that I was going between 89 and 91, which one do you feel more comfortable with?
Bregman makes it 91 for me. Like that. He just gives me that good feeling, I think 91. I think that's
okay. Okay.
89 feels a little, and this is me. I'm really trying, and that's one thing about talking Major League Baseball on my channel is I really keep an even keel. I stay down the middle. I honestly really do think, unbiased here, I do think at least 90 wins. That sounds about right. So
okay. Yeah. All right, then I'll go 91. You talked me into it.
I think I was at 92, so I think 91. I think that's pretty good. And I'll ask you one more final question. Just touching on the the Raffy situation. How do you see this infield? Playing out. Where do you see it opening day? Where do you see it? Maybe like June. I know things can change, but how do you see this infield kind of shaping out?
I think opening day, just to appease him, Raffy will be the third baseman. I think it'll be Bregman at second. I think it'll be Raffy at third, Story at short, Casas at first.
Yeah.
And you also have to, like, what happens to Yoshida? Like, Yoshida, like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Wait, do you mean the best player in the entire freaking universe?
Right. Yes, that guy. Yes.
Really good for a trade out there. If anyone really,
Oh, if you want him, you're gonna have to give us the whole farm for that guy. He's the best.
Look, I mean, it's well worth the contract. This is Shohei Ohtani kind of a move here. I'm just saying. So.
Yeah. So I think I've got Devers at third on opening day, but by June, I think it's gonna be Bregman. Like, especially like if there's shoulder concern.
Yeah.
With Devers, then it's like you can at least tell him, like, hey man, like you're more valuable to us as a DH than a guy that's on the injured list because you're throwing the ball around or diving for balls like that. You just don't need to. Like, we have a third baseman. You don't have to do that. You're already paid. You already got your contract. Like, what are we doing? So I think ultimately the switch does happen, but I don't think that they get that resolved before the season starts. No.
Well, that's one thing I liked about the Bregman signing, and that was one positive I kept bringing up, is that he had like this contingency plan like built in with him, right? Because you could just go with him at second, or if you make that move at some point, well, he can play third, depending on what happens with Campbell. Either way, what I think, any positivity, negativity, people debating about positions and whatnot. I think what's good is that what we can all agree on, where we can find middle ground. At Red Sox fans always love to go back and forth, is that we're talking about the Red Sox and we're talking about the amount of success that they could have. Right, you're starting to feel that excitement again, and it's getting pretty fun in here. It's getting pretty fun. Hopefully they figure this out with Rafi. But Jared,
it's good to be relevant again.
Yes, I think that's the right word. Yeah, relevant. Because that's where they should be.
Yes.
Too many years now. I know they've been trying to rebuild the farm and everything. But I'm glad everything is kind of starting to come full circle now. It feels good. But
yep.
Jared, man, let the listeners know. I know a lot of the listeners here they're probably already very much in tune with Section 10 and whatnot. But tell them about Section 10. Where can they find that? Anything else going on over in your realm?
Yeah, Section 10. It's my Red Sox podcast. Check us out. We're on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. We usually post episodes after every series finale. And I believe we're going to have Alex Bregman on this week. So, we'll see.
Must listen.
Yeah, we'll see what's up with that 16-page questionnaire.
we're gonna need pictures. We're gonna need the PDFs. Get all you can, man. Get all you can.
Yeah, we'll get all the info.
We're gonna wrap it up there. Thank you for watching here today, everybody. It's been a pleasure having you on, Jared. Hopefully we can do this again at some point during the season. Hopefully playoffs. We'll see. There's a lot of good things happening right now. Just want to say thank you again for coming on. This has been a long time coming, and I'm happy we got this done. So
no doubt,
everyone,
yes.
Go have yourself a good rest of your day, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.